Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our PDEP SC Lead webinar. I'm Vicki Trolfler, the PDEP coordinator at the State Department of Education, and we are delighted to have you join us for this informative session. If you would, type your name and district in the chat box so that we know who is here. This webinar is a repeat of the information that you might have received last week in the webinar, so please tune in if you need a review of some of the features of SC Lead. Randa Solutions has been working very diligently to make sure that this process is as user-friendly as possible, and we appreciate their hard work in helping our state focus on the growth and development of our administrators, teachers, and students. We're going to have Leslie Kendall from Randa Solutions with us today, and she's going to walk us through how to set up your new account in our SC Lead program, how to submit the required and abbreviated principal evaluation results for this school year. And as you know, SC Lead will replace PDS and the Excel spreadsheets that the districts have had to submit for the last 2 years. You'll see that SC Lead will guide you through the PDEP continuous improvement cycle as it is outlined in our PDEP guidelines. And while there are many PDEP components that you are going to find at your fingertips in SC Lead, today we're just going to concentrate on what you will need to submit for the 2017-18 school year. That deadline by regulation is September the 1st, but we do highly recommend that you go ahead and submit that data before June 30th in case any principals or other folks in your district leave. You want to make sure that they're there to sign their documents. Your principals are going to need to have access to SC Lead as well to complete their self-assessments and sign documents for the 2017-18 school year. And you'll need to help your principals with this after you view the webinar, or you're welcome to let the principals review the recording of this webinar. So beginning in the 18-19 school year, not only will you and the principals be able to record and submit everything online, but you'll be able to house your evaluation observation notes and everything that you need to manage the principal evaluations in one concise place. There are features such as the principal's professional development plan template and the evaluative rubric with all the criteria that will be visible and accessible for the 2018-19 school year. So we're not requiring that those fields be entered into SC Lead for this year. And as you know, this summer there are face-to-face SC Lead trainings throughout the state that are being offered, and those trainings will walk you through the entire ADAPT and PDEP process for the 2018-19 school year and beyond. So you'll learn about all those fields a little bit later at that time. And those dates and locations have already been sent out to your districts and are posted on our state website as well. So this webinar is being recorded, and we're going to send you an email with the link so that you can access it later for your reference. And Leslie will share with you the Randa helpline for any technical difficulties that you may experience while you begin to use this system. Randa will be able to help you out the most with that. And of course, if you have any questions about the process of PDEP, please feel free to email me or call me and I can help you as well. So again, thank you for joining us, and I'm now going to turn it over to Leslie Kendall from Randa Solutions.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. As Vicki mentioned, I am going to go through the sclead.org system for what will be required for the 2017-2018 school year, and then I can answer any questions as well. As we get started, I'm going to show you the registration process again. I will be doing this in our training environment. You are welcome to go ahead and try to register if you have not already in our production website, which is sclead.org. Again, I'll be using training, but you're welcome to register directly in sclead.org. When you go to the website, you'll see in the upper right corner there's a register link. You'll click register, and then this is the page that will display. From here, you will need to enter in your first name, your last name, and the last 4 of your social. Next, you'll either enter in the CID or the date of birth. So you don't need to use both. It would just be either or, the CID or the date of birth. I will say that for folks that have had a little trouble getting registered, it could be that the date of birth is incorrect in our system. We've seen a few folks come over as 1/1 and then the birth year, which obviously wouldn't be correct in most cases, unless you're a New Year's baby. And so if they're having trouble using their date of birth, have them enter in the last 4 of the social and then try just using the CID. Again, it's the CID and date of birth both are not required. It's either or. So first name, last 4 of the social, and then either the CID or the date of birth. The next step is that they would click I'm not a robot and then search. Now I'm already in the system. Let's see here. Let me do one that isn't. Okay, and you'll see once the system finds you, you'll see a search results populate to the right of the screen. If this is you, you'll click This is me. And then from here, you'll be prompted to create your account. Entering in a username. The username can be an email address. It can be first name dot last name, whatever is easy for you to remember. And then the email, we've had questions of what the email can be. It can be personal or it can be the school work email address. We will be incorporating a notification system into the system itself, so I would recommend that you use a work email address just so that you get those notifications to that email, but that's a personal preference. And then you'll create the password and confirm password. Passwords do need to be at least 8 characters long. They need to contain a capital letter, a lowercase letter, a special character, and a number. And then once you've entered this in, you would click register. If you are having any trouble with this, or if one of your principals or educators are having a difficult time and they've tried their last 4 along with either the CID or date of birth, or if the search doesn't, if it doesn't find a match, there is the help link. Let me go back to the login page. There is a help link, and we'll make sure that this is added to the actual registration page, and they can contact our support team and we'll be glad to assist them. There are a couple of options with contacting support. You can either call the phone line, and it will be option 3. They can also send an email to support@sclead.org, or they will be able to submit an online ticket that would come to us as well. So again, if anyone's having trouble registering, please feel free to have them send us a support request, either by calling the phone line, sending an email, or submitting an online support ticket. Okay. Now, what you're going to see me do today, I'm going to be kind of switching back and forth between users. Please know this is just for demonstration purposes, and this is not anything that you would need to do in your district as you're working through the system. This is just so that I can give you a view of what it would look like as the evaluator is entering in information, and then also as the principal is entering in information as well. All right, so just a kind of a brief, I'm going to touch on the home screen again, just in case you weren't with us last week. On the home screen, you will see announcements. You'll see information about your profile. We will be adding help resources, and those will be found here, user guides, links to the videos we're creating, and so forth. Also in the top, you'll see there is the help link again. And again, that will give you the contact information for contacting support. Let me go back to the home page. And then from here, we'll start looking at what you need to do in order to report data for the 2017-18 school year. I am logged in as a PDEPT administrator right now. And my starting point at the beginning of the year, when you're beginning to think about loading evaluations and creating evaluation records for your principals and staff, your starting point would be the Districts and Schools tab. When I click on District and Schools, this is taking me, if I'm an administrator, it's at the district level, it's taking me to the district's dashboard. From here, I can go into schools, staff, orientations, announcements, ADEPT plan if it applies to me. I know some of you may kind of fill more than one role and cover that as well. But so all of that can be found under districts and schools. So as you're beginning this process of loading evaluations for this year, that's where you're going to start. Okay. If you had someone staffed at the district level that did need a PDEP evaluation, you could go to the staff here and find that person. I think most of these will most likely be at the school level. So once I'm in district and schools as the administrator, the PDEP administrator, then I'm going to go to schools. From here, I'm going to find the school that I want to work with, and I'm going to click the dashboard button, which is to the right, for that school. So now I'm in the dashboard for the school that I selected, and I can go to the staff of the school that I'm working with. From here, I want to find my principal, and I'm going to click the profile option for my principal. Next, I want to add an evaluation for my principal. I'm going to click Add Evaluation. You'll see the academic year has generated for me, along with the district and the type of evaluation. Again, this is a principal, so they're going to be on the principal evaluation model. I'll click Submit, and this is taking me to a settings page. If you needed to change some of the settings for the evaluation, you can do so here. I clicked Edit. Perhaps the scope was not correct and I need to change it. I'm going to change this principal to partial. And then if the principal does serve in multiple buildings, I could indicate that here. By indicating this, it will return evaluators from all of the locations that this principal is staffed. So if I needed an evaluator to observe this principal that's in a different school, I realize that may not necessarily be applicable on the principal side, but I did want to cover that you can put them in multiple locations and then assign evaluators from those locations that you selected. Okay, I'm going to click Submit because I did make a change on the scope to partial, and by making this change, I'll click Submit, and that will save the change that I made. All right, now that I've got my evaluation set up, I want to go back and add my evaluation team. That's found on the status. And again, on this page, you'll see an overall status of the evaluation. Of course, we're just getting started, so nothing's been completed. And I'm going to add my evaluation team. I'm going to click Add Evaluator. Now, you'll see two options for the role. You either have evaluator or evaluation chair. If you only have one person evaluating your principal, you would just click evaluation chair. And this is the person that's primarily responsible for the evaluation. So if you have multiple people, whoever's taking the lead on the evaluation would need to be listed as the evaluation chair. So I'm going to go ahead and assign an evaluator. I'm going to search by name, and the system will return options that match the location and then also the name that I entered. Okay, so I'm going to select the district admin as the evaluation chair for this principal. And for this particular situation, I do want to go ahead and have another evaluator. And so I'm adding another person. I selected evaluator and add. And now you'll see my evaluation team consist of the superintendent of the district and a district administrator, also of the district. And that person is the evaluation chair, which means they're the person primarily responsible for the evaluation. All right, so for 2017-2018, the system's going to look a little bit different for you since the evaluation process has probably already been completed. And so now you're just at the point that you're going to be reporting the data within the SELead.org system. The question was, can I add the assistant superintendents to their respective teams, or do they need to do that themselves? They can add themselves as that assistant superintendent role, but you can do it as well. If you're setting up the team, I would probably recommend going ahead and adding anyone that you need to be on that team. Okay, and so for this academic year, for 17-18, what you all will be reporting on is the orientation conference, the mid-year conference, the end-of-year conference, the annual assurance, and then the assessment. The assessment would consist of the principal's self-assessment along with the evaluator assessment. Depending if there's more than one evaluator, each evaluator would enter in their own evaluation assessment, and then you would create the evaluation worksheet where you are going to reach a consensus rating for that principal, and then the final assessment worksheet form for that principal, and we'll go through each step of that. Now, since the evaluations have already occurred this year, we don't have logic in here for when things have to be done. So for the conferences, the evaluator can come into each of the conferences in one setting. They can edit this form and enter in the date, select the assurances for the orientation conference, click Save to save their work, and they can go ahead and add their signature. Again, when you're prompted to add your signature, the system has already generated a PIN for you that will serve as your electronic signature within the system. This was done automatically when your person record was created within the system, so there's nothing you need to do to get a PIN. Obviously, this first time logging in, you won't know what your PIN is, and that's okay. Anytime that you are prompted to enter your PIN, you'll see a link to the right that says Forgot Your PIN. If you click Forgot Your PIN, the system will show you what your PIN number is. So I'm going to enter my PIN here. I'll click Sign. And now the evaluator signature has been added to the orientation conference. These conferences have already occurred, so we're going to go ahead and go to the mid-year as the evaluator. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to add in the date that the mid-year conference occurred. Select my assurances for this mid-year conference and save. And again, add my signature. Next, I'm going to come to the end of year conference, and I'll do the same thing. I'm going to edit. I'll enter in the date that the end of year conference occurred. I'll select my assurances and save. Now I can add my signature. And all the signatures have been added to those conferences for the evaluator. At this point, I'm ready to let my principal know that he or she can go in and add his or her signature to these conferences as well. So I'm going to switch over and show you the system from the principal's view. And again, I'm going through a testing dashboard. This is not something that you all would see or do. This is just in our training environment, so I can show you the different roles. Okay, so once the principal is logged in, they'll start at their home page. Their evaluation has already been created for them. You've done this as the evaluator. So they can click on evaluations and they'll see their evaluation record for this year. From here, they'll click details and they can now go in and enter his or her signature on these conference forms. Okay. Now the orientation conference has been signed. We'll go back to the mid-year. I'm in agreement with this. I'm going to add my signature here as well. And I'll go to the end of the year conference. Again, I'm in agreement and I'll add my signature here. Okay. Now, at this point, I would recommend the principal can go in to assessments and they can start the self-assessment. A quick start self-assessment. So we'll go back and show you that. Well, it's in progress. I already clicked it at this point. So start self-assessment. From here, I'm going to click edit. You know what? And I missed a step. I'm so sorry. One of the things that I did not mention, and I just switched back over to my evaluator role, and so you'll see the evaluator page at this point. I didn't go in and set the required standards, so if this is a partial year for your evaluator or for your principal, and you can go into required standards under evaluation, and you can mark the standards that you need for the principal to be evaluated on for this school year. So I had missed that step. So if you go to the evaluation under required standards, I'll click edit. And from here, I can select which standards I'm going to be evaluating the principal on this year. You'll notice that standard 2 and standard 9 are default selected for you, and you can't change that since at this point those are required by the state. But you can add to this list if necessary. If you only did standard 2 and 9, then you don't have any changes you need to make. But if you needed to add in some additional standards for the evaluator for this year, then you can make that selection here. Okay. All right, so now that I've gone in and add my required standards, I'm going to go back to the principal view and we'll work on the self-assessment. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I haven't missed any questions or if there is something that you needed me to show again before we move on to the assessment. So for Greenville County's question, as far as if they initially had selected no on the assurance and signed off on it, if they later on need to go back and change that selection, could they? As long as the evaluation is open, it is possible to remove the signatures, and then at that point you could edit, as long as that's functionality that the state would want to have in the system. That is a possibility. I'll yield to the state as far as if that needed to be changed, but at this point, as long as the evaluation hasn't ended, then you could remove the signatures and edit that form.
Leslie, that's the case from our perspective if they haven't completed, and you can maybe show us what button completes the evaluation, just so they know. If they have clicked to complete the evaluation, then they would need to get in touch with Vicki to make any changes.
Yes, once we get through the process, I'll show you what would actually mark the evaluation as complete. And until the end of the academic year, you could even still make changes, but once that academic year has been closed by the state, then at that point, if any other changes needed to be made, then those would need to go to Vicki or someone within the state.
And we wouldn't close the
there
PADET
any other-
year until September 1st, until that deadline that's in our regulation.
All right, so if there's no other questions at this moment, I'll go ahead and move forward. All right, so I am viewing the system as the principal again, and I will go to the assessments. A few moments ago, I had clicked on start the self-assessment, so that generated that form. Now you'll see that it's incomplete. I didn't make any changes, hadn't signed it. So I'll click Principal Self-Assessment, and that will take me to where I left off. You'll notice that the self-assessment did update where I had changed the required standards for this evaluation, and those standards have populated here. Now I can click Edit. I can come in and add my rating. We have updated the system to where if the rating was needs improvement or unsatisfactory, I would need to add in a comment. I can add attachments here if I needed to, and then I can also add in my overall summative rating. I'll click Save. Now I can still edit this, so if I come back and I needed to, I just wanted to think on it a little bit before I actually submitted it and wanted to make a change, I can click Edit again, and I can still make a change in this rating or add additional notes, anything of that nature that I needed to do. If I do make any changes, I would need to click Save for the system to capture those changes I've made. Once I'm ready to submit this to my evaluator, I can click Add My Signature. At this point, the evaluator would not see my ratings until I've added my signature. So as soon as I'm ready for my evaluator or evaluator team to see my ratings, I'll click Add My Signature. Again, if I don't remember my PIN, I'll click Forgot Your PIN. And now the self-assessment has been signed by the principal, and the evaluation team can now see those ratings the principal has entered. I'm going to switch back over to the evaluator's view. Again, I'm using a district administrator, and this is the person assigned as the evaluation chair. The view would be the same if it was an evaluator as well. When I go to the assessments, I can see that the principal has completed the self-assessment. I can view it here if I want to so that I can see comments. I'm going to go back to the assessments, and now I'm ready to start my evaluator assessment. If there is only one evaluator on the team, then the only thing that needs to be done at this point is just the evaluator assessment. If you have multiple evaluators on the team, each evaluator would start the evaluator assessment, and once they've completed those, then the evaluation chair would come in and complete the principal summative evaluation worksheet. And I'll show you how that works in just a moment. But for now, I'll go ahead and start an evaluator assessment. You'll notice that the principal's self-assessment is showing. If the principal had not pinned his or her self-assessment form, then this would just be blank. It would not show you the ratings here. Those will only populate once the principal has entered his or her PIN. Okay. Now I'm ready to come in and add my ratings. I clicked Edit. I'll select my ratings. And then add any comments that I needed. Again, if it was needs improvement or unsatisfactory, the system would require you to enter in notes for that. I can add in additional comments and then provide an overall rating. If I needed to change it, I can still click edit. I really needed to make this person exemplary. They're an outstanding principal.
And Leslie, just to give some clarity, for those principals who are on induction, they do receive feedback, written and oral feedback on every standard. So this is where you would capture that in the comments, that written feedback.
Yes, and to also say that if they're on an induction year or a full evaluation year, all of the standards that were required would populate for you. You wouldn't have to make those selections. The signature on the principal evaluator assessment is optional. We've added it here so that if there are multiple evaluators on the team, it's just kind of an indicator to the other evaluators that yes, you are complete with your evaluator assessment, and then you all can come together to come up with those consensus ratings. But again, this is just on this particular form, it is optional. The system would allow you to add the comments. There is an attachment section. If that is acceptable with the state team, then you could attach those notes. Again, I would yield to the state as far as what their expectation is there. The system would require a note entered for a rating of unsatisfactory or needs improvement, but if just in general you wanted to attach notes, you could add attachments there. When you click edit, there's an attachment section here.
And that, from the state perspective, that's fine. We want to make sure that you have the data captured and that those comments are happening in either format, whatever's easiest for you, especially in this first year as we're transitioning away from the spreadsheet and onto an electronic system.
Okay. So now this principal evaluator assessment is complete. I did assign a secondary evaluator to this principal, so I'm going to go to that view. And again, I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. So now I'm the superintendent who just happens to be an additional evaluator for that principal. I'm on my home page. I do know that the evaluation was already set up. My ADEPT administrator did that for me, and so I'm going to click on Evaluations. From here, I'm going to click Details, and that will take me into that principal's evaluation. Okay, and you'll see here that I do see a progress for the evaluation. The orientation, the conferences have all been completed. The mid-year, end-of-year self-assessment is complete, so the system does give you an indication of the progress of the evaluation. I'm going to go to Assessments because I want to add in an evaluator assessment as well. On this page, again, it looks very similar to what we just saw. It's the same form. The principal self-assessment is here because the principal had penned the self-assessment form. When I'm ready to enter my ratings, I'll click Edit, and from here I'll go in and add my ratings for this principal. I can add comments, attach comments, but again, just remember that if you had entered in needs improvement or unsatisfactory as the rating, that's when the system would require a comment directly in association with that standard. I'm going to give my overall rating and save. Again, the signature is optional. I can enter it just to show that I am done with that principal evaluation. Lets my other evaluator know. All right, so I just switched screens again, and I'm going to come back to the assessments. Now I'll see that there are two evaluator assessments here. Both of the evaluators have come together. They've had a meeting. They've decided what the final rating should be for this principal. And so the person who is listed as the evaluation chair would come to the system and click Start Principal Summative Evaluation Worksheet. Now on this worksheet, you'll notice that the principal self-assessment has been populated, along with the ratings that each of the evaluators had entered on the evaluator assessment. This isn't visible to the principal. The principal will not see these. Okay. The evaluation chair can come in, add the final rating, again, add comments as necessary, attach documentation, additional comments or evidence or anything of that nature, and then provide an overall summative rating. Okay. Again, the signatures on these aren't required. It is optional, but we do have them there in case you want to have those signed off on. At this time, I'll come back to assessments. And now I'm ready to start the principal summative evaluation form. Just to reiterate, the evaluator assessment shown here and the summative evaluation worksheet would not be seen by the principal. Okay. If there is only one evaluator, the only thing that needs to be completed is the principal evaluator assessment. You wouldn't need to do the evaluation worksheet. That the worksheet is for when there's multiple evaluators. Okay, I'm going to click Start Principal Summative Evaluation Form. Now on this form, you'll see that the principal self-assessment ratings again show for you as long as the principal had penned, and then the evaluator rating shows as well. This evaluator rating would come from that worksheet that we just completed. So this is showing the final rating from the evaluator assessment worksheet. If there was only one evaluator assessment, one evaluator assessment, then this rating, the evaluator rating, would just populate from that evaluator assessment form. But since there were two and then the summative worksheet was created, this rating is pulling from that worksheet. At this point, I need to edit, and I'll come in and enter the rating. Most likely it would probably be the same as what came from the evaluator assessment worksheet, but if a change needed to be made, that still could occur. I'll add in those ratings. Again, additional comments as necessary, and then give an overall rating. Click Save. All right. The signatures on this worksheet do need to be entered. The principal will see this record, but the principal will not be able to view the form or enter his or her pen until after all of the evaluators on the team have entered their signatures. So I'll go ahead and add my signature. And from there, I need my secondary evaluator to come in and add his or her signature. So as that secondary evaluator, I was already within the evaluation. I'll come to Assessments. I'll click Principal Summative Evaluation Form and add my signature.
And from an implementation standpoint, Leslie, we would suggest that whoever the evaluator is that's holding that face-to-face conference with the principal is, that they sign the form during that conference with the principal so that the principal can then go look at it and sign it after the conference. But you wouldn't, in most districts, it's not very common to send them the scores before you sit down and have that face-to-face conference about your evidence.
Okay. All right, so once the signatures have been added, this does become visible to the principal at this point. So again, if you need to hold off on adding that last signature until you're actually within the that final orientation meeting or conference meeting to add that signature. And then once all those have been added, the principal can come to the assessment. They can now view the form and then add his or her signature.
Again, if your principal has a device they can bring to that conference meeting, they can sign directly in that conference as well, just like you would do on paper, everything's signed before you head out of the meeting.
All right, I'm going to come back to the system as that evaluation chair. I do have the results here. I can come in and add in the results for what will be next year. I will say you notice that the overall summative rating populated for you. It carried over from that final assessment form. I can indicate what the scope for next year will be. I can add a higher status and submit. The only other thing that we haven't done yet is the superintendent needs to sign the annual assurance. So I'll come back to my superintendent role. I'll click on annual assurances, and you'll notice the superintendent's view. He or she is going to see the annual assurances from the orientation meeting, the mid-year conference, and the end-of-year conference. The superintendent will see the assurances for the superintendent and then can add his or her signature. And the form's now been signed. All the assurances are complete. Okay. The results have been entered, so everything is complete with this evaluation at this point. The evaluation chair or the PDEPT administrator can come in and then mark that this evaluation is indeed complete. At this point, changes can't be made in this state for this evaluation. However, if the academic year hasn't been closed, and again for 17-18 for PDEPT, that would be on September 1, the PDEPT administrator could come back in and click Edit, remove the evaluation complete, submit, and at that point signatures could be removed and edits could be made as necessary. And then once those have been completed, the PDEPT administrator would come back, mark the evaluation as complete again, and it's locked for editing again. That can occur again until the PDEPT academic year has been closed. Once it's been closed, so after September 1st this year, if there were any changes that needed to be made, those would need to go to the state. Right now, the superintendent would need to sign each of the assurances individually. That question did come up last week, and it's a conversation we can have with the state if that functionality needs to be changed. But as of right now, the superintendent would need to sign each annual assurance individually for the principals. All right, so gone through everything. This evaluation is now complete. What questions do you have? What do you need me to show you again? Anyone have questions?
We'll turn on the mic, and if you want to just raise your hand if you have questions, please feel free to ask them or type them into the chat box. So the question coming from Chan Anderson is, once I've logged in and registered, what is my next step?
Okay, so once you've logged in and registered, if your role is you're the one creating the evaluation for the principal, you would go to districts and schools. That's your starting point. Okay, you're going to land on the dashboard for the district. You would click schools to go to your school list. You'll click the dashboard for the school. Now you're viewing the dashboard for that particular school. You can click staff, and this will show you a list of your staff for that location. You can click profile, and then on the profile page is where you would add an evaluation. The academic year will populate for you, and the other details, and now I've added that evaluation. So again, I went to districts and schools. I'm on the district dashboard. I want to drill down to my school level. I click schools. I click the dashboard for the school I want to work with. Staff. And then profile for the person I'd like to start the evaluation for. Then add evaluation. Frank, the principals have been loaded into the system. Actually, everyone has from PCS. They should be able to register. They're going to click, let me log out to show you. They'll click the register link. They need to enter their first name, their last four of their social, and either the CID or the date of birth. If they use the date of birth and it doesn't return a match for them, please ask them to try just using the last word of their social and their CID. If they are not able to find, they don't return a record for them, they can click the online support form. They can call in to our support desk, or they can send an email as well.
Any other questions? Please feel free to raise your hand or type them in the chat bar. We'd love to address those before we move on. So as we're waiting for questions to come in, just a few reminders from the State Department. This is Lila and Vicki, and our first reminder would just be if your district PADEP and ADEPT teams have not signed up for training on the full system for how we'll upload teacher and principal evaluations for 2018-19. Our next training is in Greenville, June 6th, and I believe that one is completely full. Dr. Hartwell is managing a wait list, though, if you'd like to be placed on the wait list. We have 2 trainings the following week in the Midlands as well, and then I think there's one more later in the summer. We will also be holding sessions over the summer and through the fall to help with technical support for SC Lead. Specifically for PADEP, I'll turn it over to Dr. Trofler.
Just as a reminder, you will need to help your principals get onto the system and register, because they will need to go in and complete their self-assessment and have their signatures on those 3 conferences. And also the principal evaluations are due. By regulation, the absolute deadline is September the 1st. But we highly recommend that you try to get them all in, if possible, by June 30th, before the end of the fiscal school year. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or call me. And with any technical support, Leslie has gone through the help button and the phone number that you'll need to reach Randa. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. We hope it's been very helpful to you, and let us know if we can assist you. Thank you.
Hey, Vicki.
The only other question I'm seeing is from Greenville. So Leslie, if you wouldn't mind showing us again where we could go to add evaluators for the principals if the district administrator is not the evaluator.
Absolutely. So the district administrator can go to, again, we're going to go to district and schools as our starting point. We'll drill down to schools. We'll select our school. We'll go to staff, select the profile. And the first step would be to add the evaluation. Once the evaluation has been added, let me select the other one. On the status page, there's a section for the status, and then below that is the evaluation team. And from here, the PADEP administrator can set the evaluation team, even if they're not going to be a part of the evaluation. So if you're setting someone else at the district level to do that evaluation for the principal, click Add Evaluator. Again, you'll select either the evaluator or the evaluation chair. If you only use one, that one person would be the evaluation chair. If you have multiple people, that's where one person would be designated as the evaluation chair, and someone else would be, or the other people would be evaluators. You'll select or enter in a name to find a person. Once you've got your list returned, you select the person you would like to assign as in that role, either evaluator or evaluation chair, and click Add. And again, the PADEP administrator can set these up, or the evaluator can as well.
And also just a reminder too that whenever you select someone to be on the evaluation team, those are the people who will need to put their signatures into the conferences. Because if the DA or DU sign the conferences and they're not assigned on the evaluation team in this screen that's showing now, then the principals won't be able to access that self-assessment to complete.
So Martin, were you able to did he ask the principal to use enter their first name, their last name, the last 4 of their social, and their CID? If that didn't work, please have that principal send us a support request. Again, they can either fill out an online support form, they can call into the number, or they can send an email to support@sclead.org.
So Ernest's question is just to review, and I think this is really important because you're going to have to break it down this simply for your principals who are swamped at the beginning of the year. We're entering results for evaluations, getting signatures for those required conference for principal evaluations for 17-18. Yes, that's absolutely correct. The only thing I'd add to that is that the principal does need to do that self-assessment inside of the system. Stephanie, thanks for that feedback. We're really trying to work as we learn the system and we learn our technology tools, how we can help it be easier for everyone to understand what to do. So please keep giving us feedback. If something's not clear, we want to make sure it is. We know you're all incredibly busy, so if you need to sign out and head out and deal with all of the things that are happening at the end of the school year, we'll send you to it. We will be around for questions, though, so please feel free to linger and ask those questions. But we really appreciate your attendance today.